It's your boy, Calix Boxing. Hit that sub button for nightly boxing videos. Thank you guys for tuning in. Round of applause. Round of applause for you. Prediction video tonight. This is prediction, CalTV prediction number 4. Gennady Golovkin versus Kell Brook. Sold out O2 Arena in the UK. Gennady Golovkin 35-0, 32 KOs. And our boy Kell Brook 36-0, 25 KOs. Let's get this straight right off the bat. Kell Brook is doing something that he didn't have to do. Now, he's getting paid well for it. Yes. But Kell Brook is doing something that Canelo Alvarez is not willing to do, that Sergio Martinez was not willing to do, that Danny Jacobs is not willing to do, that Peter Quillen was not willing to do. Goes on and on, that Miguel Cotto was not willing to do. So Kell Brook is jumping in the tank with the great white shark without a cage. You see on the National Geographic Channel when the guys, these divers, jump into this cage with the great white shark. It's like, big deal. You got a cage around you. Kell Brook's doing it without the cage. Look, Peter Fury did a video or did an interview yesterday with Baylor Rick TV, in which he said this is a win-win situation for Kell Brook. I can see where you could say that. He's getting paid. His stock should rise after this, regardless win or lose, and regardless of how he loses. It should have been the same thing with Amir Khan stepping up to fight Canelo Alvarez. My point yesterday and talking about this and talking about that article or that interview was, I don't necessarily know if that's the case in today's boxing, where people put so much emphasis on potential and rank guys so high who fight low risk, high reward and keep an undefeated record, and rank these guys higher than guys who are fighting tough fights, maybe lose one or two of them. I'll give you a specific example. Sean Porter ranked lower by a lot of people than Danny Garcia. Sean Porter is fighting the top guys at 147. Danny Garcia is actively staying away from these guys. Yet Danny Garcia, since he has an undefeated record, and I don't even think he's undefeated, not on my scorecard anyway, is ranked higher than a Sean Porter, who is fighting the Keith Thurmans of the world, fighting the Kell Brooks of the world. And even though he's lost to those guys, he still fought those guys. So my point was, even though Khan, you would think going into the fight, and I even said it before the fight, that Khan, win or lose, is going to, his stock should rise or even stay the same at worst after fighting Canelo. He should get a high payday. He should be rewarded for his risk, and he should not really be hurt by it from the fans. He should be rewarded by the boxing fans for that. Yet I think the boxing fans are so low information at this point, and I think they have their values and priorities wrong, to where they're not rewarding these guys for taking these steps up. And if Kell Brook were to get knocked out, I don't think the fans would be that forgiving. I don't think the fans would be as forgiving as people think. It's just my opinion. I'm not into denying reality. So when I see Amir Khan get clowned for getting knocked out by Canelo Alvarez, Amir Khan that is, I don't necessarily think his stock rose or maybe even stayed the same after that. I think there was just another knockout loss to a lot of people for Amir Khan. And I think is be said for Kell Brook here. I don't necessarily know that this is a win-win situation for him. Yes, he's getting paid well, but where I think Peter Fury might be wrong is he can take a lot of damage in this fight. So this could be an L. This could be not only a loss on his record, but this could take a couple of years off of his career. When you step in there with a savage puncher such as a Triple G, there is a reason why Triple G's peers are staying away from him. There's a reason why Canelo's like, and Oscar De La Hoya is like, I don't know if I want to put my prized possession of Canelo in there with this guy for another year and a half. we're going to stay away from this guy for a year and a half. Hopefully he exits the division and goes up to 168 by the time we said we're ready to fight him. There's a reason that Sergio Martinez got a look of Golovkin and said, nah, don't really want to do that. There's a reason that Cotto said the same thing. There's a reason that Cotto said, nah, I don't really want to fight that guy. Even at 155, don't really want to fight him. If all of his peers are saying, nah, I want to stay away from this guy. If the top fighters in his division and around his division are saying, nah, no thanks, that tells me a lot. That tells me all I really need to know about that guy. And yes, you look at his resume, Wade, Lemieux, Monroe Jr., Murray, Rubio, Gill, Adama, Stevens, Macklin. It lacks the big name. It lacks that. It lacks that elite opposition. And yes, there's some good wins on there, but there's nothing that's wow. But he doesn't have the opportunity to get that. He could step up to 168, but Bernard Hopkins didn't step up to 168. If we're going to be critical of Golovkin doing it now, got to be critical of Hopkins. If Twitter and Facebook was around when Hopkins was fighting in the 90s and fighting the top mandatory after mandatory after mandatory, people would have been saying, step up to 168, step up to 168. Same thing they're saying of Golovkin now. And there's really no wrong answer to that. I can understand why people are saying that. I wanted Golovkin to fight James DeGale in this fight instead of Kell Brook. That's what I wanted. Whether that fight was makeable or not, I don't know, but that's what I wanted. So I'm not a fan of this fight by any means, but it is what it is. And going back to Kell Brook, he's doing something that these guys refused to do, and they were in his division. Kell Brook had other opportunities. Kell Brook could have stayed at 147 and fought an Errol Spence Jr. and fought other guys at 147. Those fights were available for him. And if not, if he couldn't make 147 anymore, if he was having trouble doing that, he could have fought at 154, right? There were names over there for him to fight as well. So there were other options for him. So going up to 160, that's a huge jump, and it's something he didn't have to do. Yes, he's getting paid a lot of money, but he's getting paid a lot of money because he's freaking jumping in the ocean with a great white shark. He can take a lot of damage. He can take years off of his career by taking this fight. So it's a risk, and he's being rewarded for it. But it's something he didn't have to do. Now, as far as the actual fight goes and breaking down the fight, my prediction is clear. My prediction has been clear since this fight has been signed, and my prediction has been clear for every Golovkin fight. Golovkin by knockout. It's Golovkin by knockout. And I'm not saying Golovkin's untouchable. Golovkin is a god, because I already see those comments coming from a mile away. There are fighters out there who could possibly give Golovkin some issues, maybe 2 or 3 of them in and around the division. But those guys refuse, like I said, to step into the ring with Golovkin at this point. As I would pick Golovkin by knockout without even thinking about it. And the reason this fight bothered me when it was signed, and the reason I still, without even a question, say Golovkin by knockout without even thinking about it, is if a guy is stepping up 2 weight classes, and I understand he's a big welterweight. I keep hearing big welterweight, and it's true. People have the right to say it. But the problem with that is he's still fighting at welterweight. He's still facing welterweight power. All right, he's still facing guys who have welterweight chins. All right, so in other words, he's only been hit by welterweights. He has only hit welterweights. So what happens when, all right, Kell Brook, a big welterweight, has been able to walk guys down, has been able to use that jab and control the pace of the fight and create distance and keeping his range. What happens when all that goes away? What happens when you strip that away? Which Golovkin will do. He will do. Kell Brook will not have those advantages. If you're stepping up 2 weight classes, if you're giving up size, you have to have other advantages. I'm not saying size is everything. We've seen fights where size backfired because when you have a size advantage, you give up other things. You give up speed generally. Look at Pacquiao versus De La Hoya. De La Hoya had a huge size advantage, but he gave up a huge speed advantage, and speed killed. Pacquiao was running circles around him with his hands and with his feet. However, in this instance, I don't think Kell Brook was a great welterweight by any means. Sean Porter is his only big win. So he's a good welterweight fighting what we think right now is a great middleweight. You would think, if not great, he's really good. He's still got to get that big win, I guess. But like I said, his peers, how they're acting, tells me everything I need to know about Gennady Golovkin. But getting back to my point, what happens when you strip that stuff away? What happens when you hit Golovkin with a shot that would have hurt a welterweight that you fought, and Golovkin just walks right through it? What happens when Golovkin hits you with the jab, and you're like, damn, that hurts. The jab hurts. What happens when Kell Brook has that point in the fight where Willie Monroe Jr. had, and Wade had, and Lemieux had, and Murray had, and Rubio had, where they get hit with the shot and they're like, man, it just isn't worth it. Myself for another day, it just isn't worth it. And a welterweight, when you're used to welterweight power, it's even going to be more so, you would think. So just a lot of things going against. Like I said, I just don't see any advantage for Kell Brook at all in this fight. Any advantage. And when a guy is coming up, like I've seen the videos, I've seen people say, well, Hagler fought Leonard, and this guy fought that guy who was coming up from a lower weight class. So that's an excuse for Golovkin to fight Kell Brook and whatnot. Look, you can't compare the two. You can't compare. Obviously, you can't compare Leonard to Hagler, because Leonard fought at 168 before he fought Hagler, right? At 168. So he already fought at a higher weight class, and he was Leonard. He had distinct advantages over Hagler coming into that fight. Kell Brook has no advantage. Kell Brook doesn't have a speed advantage, I don't think, in this fight. Golovkin has decent speed. Golovkin has decent footwork. I mean, the footwork is at worst what. Both very good jabs. Golovkin has a good chin, as does Kell Brook. Golovkin has a ton of power. So I just don't see where the advantage is. Kell Brook has an advantage or a strength that he can exploit that would take advantage of any weakness that Golovkin has, which Golovkin has weaknesses. Every fighter does. But I just don't see anything that Kell Brook has that would take advantage of that. He's not a very active fighter, so he's not going to overwhelm Golovkin by any means. So I keep trying to play this fight out in my head, and trying to come up with a way that Kell Brook could possibly turn this fight around and win the fight. I just don't see it. I don't see how he could catch Golovkin with a big shot. He's saying that he's going to knock Golovkin out. And the thing about, I call this fight predator versus prey. The thing about the prey is the prey doesn't always know it's the prey. The prey, you see the lion attack the gazelle, and the gazelle is just, prancing around. Everything's good. Everything's great. And then the lion just comes out of nowhere. Kell Brook is acting like everything's great right now. Everything's fine. I'm going to get paid. I'm going to knock Golovkin out. But then we've seen that before with Golovkin opponents. And then you get in there and you're just like, this is a different animal. It's a different beast altogether. So stepping up 2 weight classes, fighting a guy who is arguably one of the toughest punchers in boxing today. It's a tough ask, man. It's a big ask. I just hope at the end of the day, because Golovkin will win this by knockout. My only question is, what round will it happen? I think it's going to be early. I actually think it's going to be early, 3 or 4, something like that. My only hope is that Kell Brook gets rewarded for this risk. as boxing fans, we need to hold ourselves accountable, and we need to start saying, okay, we need to actively start um, praising these guys for taking risks, so more guys do it. So more guys do it. We need to start going to these fights where, and I'm glad that this fight sold out. I didn't like the fight, but I'm glad it sold out because they're rewarding Kell Brook. His fans are rewarding him for taking this risk, as they should. So I hope more fighters get rewarded for doing stuff like this, and I hope this fight happening, Triple G fighting Kell Brook, is more of an indictment on boxing, I think, than it is on Triple G. Like I said, I named all the guys ducking Triple G. Um, so I think it's more of an indictment on boxing than Triple G. However, it still falls on Triple G as well. So guys like that need to be called out as well for fighting guys with long odds. However, at the same time, I still understand people who react to that and say, "What else is he going to do?" So I still understand that as well. I mean, who the hell is a guy going to fight at this point? Besides stepping up at 168, and I would love to see him fight James DeGale. That's just me. But we are where we are. Third round knockout by Golovkin. Hopefully, people praise Kell Brook after he gets knocked out as well. So hopefully, both guys get respect after the fight, and hopefully, somebody steps up and fights Golovkin, and we get better fights. So hit me up. Let me know what y'all think about this. Leave the comments. I'll put them on the podcast live on air tomorrow night and get y'all's thoughts on this. So Golovkin by third or fourth round. Let's go with third round KO over Kell Brook early and often. Brook is not going to like that power. Just not. Peace.